the hardest one.
You got the others loose?
Yeah, they're all off.
So what is this right here?
It's just sitting, the bolt's just sitting in there.
Okay. Just asking.
Really?
Time for a new cane mill update, huh?
Well, it's got to be, because we're trying to get away from the pole and use the PTO on the tractor. The PTO in the tractor turns in a different direction than the feed on the cane mill is. And after doing some research, this particular cane mill can actually turn in either direction. The only thing you have to do is you have to reverse the rollers on the inside of it.
Which are these two things here?
Yes, which are those two things. One of them is larger in diameter than the other one is. The one that's the smallest in diameter is your feed roller, and the bigger one is actually the one that does the pressing of the cane. So I've got to take the top completely off of it and swap those rollers around. And I figure while I've got it off, the mill hasn't had anything done to it since Zoltan and I rebuilt it. We have a video over on Deepsouth Homestead where we rebuilt it. We redone the bearings. We took it all apart. We cleaned it, serviced it and put it back together. We repainted it at the time with it's a cheap latex paint we put on it, which has since, faded up real bad. And it's been sitting out in the weather. We haven't really taken the kind of care of it we probably should have. And I figured right now, Wanda and I, it's kind of hard on us to, I got to take a break from turning that thing. That thing's hard. Wanda and I want to try to get it down to where we don't have to struggle so hard with a long pole going round and round and round in circles trying to squeeze this stuff, having to stand up, feed cane through it. Me and Mr. Tim started out with this thing. He built me this contraption here we talked about the other day. This actually sits down on the top of that square thing there, and post hole auger actually fits in this, and you put a pin in it and it turns the cane mill. Well, the PTO on my tractor is turning just a little faster than what I would like for it to turn, idling. I just didn't feel safe with just a straight system like this, because if the cane got in a bind in there or something, you could break the teeth off in there. So me and Mr. Tim went back to the drawing board, and he is trying to locate, well, he has located a 12-inch pulley to go up here, or a sheave. Some people call them sheaves. But in order to slow it down, we need a 2 or a 2.5-inch pulley over here to hook the post hole auger to over here to slow this down enough for it to actually turn to the speed that I'm comfortable with. Mr. Tim is working on that part of it right now. But because time is short, I had a slip clutch on a hay baler up there, an old slip clutch. This was all rusted up. I mean, it was in bad shape. So I took it off, and I took it to a friend of mine, Mr. Cameron, and I had him to weld a receiver hitch, this 2-inch square receiver hitch on this end, which will fit right over that, just like that. This will fit into the post hole auger right here, and this is a slip clutch. If we go to put, this is going to have to be adjusted, but if we happen to put cane in it and it gets in a bind, I want this adjusted that before it breaks a tooth or does something to the mill, this clutch will begin to slip inside this and save the mill. Now, the mill is still going to be turning at the same speed that Mr. Tim's had, but this is kind of like a safety device to get through this year to see if it will actually work. Now, I don't know that it's going to work yet. This is, I'm trying to get the mill reversed and to get it all put back together. I have some cane already cut, that I want to run through it just as a test to get this adjusted, because I completely rebuilt this thing. Everything's brand new in it, so that we have absolutely no problems with it.
That's the Cub Red.
This is the Cub Farmall Red. I'm kind of partial to it. I'm going to paint the mill the same exact color. I went ahead and cleaned up all the, there is a there's a cast iron plate in between this with 2 bronze clutch discs in there that we cleaned up, got it all back together, got the bolts all in it. This thing is ready to rock and roll. It's up to me now to get this top off of here. If I can get it lifted up off of here, I'll probably take the tractor and do it, because I know I can't pick it up. And set it over to the side, take these rollers out, clean everything. I'm gonna clean it really good this time. And I'm probably going to paint every part of it with a good oil-based Farmall or International Harvester color red, whatever you want to call it, industrial paint, and put back on this. And from now on, if I can get the facility built that I want to get built, it'll be sitting underneath the shed, and hopefully it won't go through all the wear and tear that it's been going through all these years. Well, the top wasn't quite as bad as we thought. Me and Miss Wanda got it off of there. I got to remember all these pieces come out of here. These just sit on here. They don't bolt or nothing like that. Well, it sounds kind of crazy, but
the top holds them in place.
Yeah, the top holds them all in place.
Wait, don't drop.
It ain't gonna let it
My toes is there though.
This is what we'll do is this one will actually reverse.
It's got to go on that side.
Oh, it'll go the other direction. This is made to flip over. It'll go right here, and it'll work over here instead of over there. So that now, let me get this off of here so it doesn't. The deal is these gears come off of this here. Now, what we've got to do is these rollers have to swap. So I need
nothing else swaps on here.
No, nothing else swaps. Now I may swap the bearings because the bearings are already seated
for those particular rollers. But I'm going to try to clean this all up because it's been sitting out. You know, it needs to be cleaned. Clean this up. This, well, that's a heavy gear there, but I really need to clean up under it. Yeah, because I want to clean all this up. You can see the trash and the dirt and everything that's gotten up under it. See if I can get my air hose, my grinders and all that out, and see if I can't just my wire brushes, and see if I can't sit here and clean all of this up. Good morning, everybody. Danny and Wanda back from Pecan Grove. Guys, we're out in the shop. It's not even daylight yet. If you look outside the doors, it's still pitch dark out there. Says Wanda it's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, actually it is 6 o'clock in the morning. Still dark. The time hadn't changed yet, but it will, and it'll be daylight here before long. But we got a lot to do today. I've taken the old cane mill apart. Okay, guys, this is a golden new model. It's called a number 2 one-horse cane mill. I've got the parts now. I've got them repainted with a really good industrial paint this time.
Actually has all the information on it here about the adjustments of the feed rollers, 1/8 inch apart, all that kind of stuff. I thought that was pretty neat to have all your information on it. I took the old mill apart because I have to change the direction of the sugarcane feed into it, which can be done on these mills. And because we're swapping up using the pole going around and around, we're going to try to hook it up to the tractor, and the tractor turns in one direction and the mill feed was in the other direction. So I have to reverse the feed of the mill. And while I had it apart, I said, well, let's just look at this thing and see what it looks like. Well, it's been about, I don't know, probably 6 years. I have a video over on Deepsouth Homestead about me and Zoltan taking this thing apart, pouring some bearings in it and stuff like that, and putting it back together, cleaning it up, putting it back together. And it's been a long time since I've had this mill apart. And when I took it apart this time, I was by myself. I spent a little bit more time with the brush grinders and stuff, cleaning the insides of it up, you know, more so than what it's ever been. And when I was in it, I realized there is something that I'd missed the first time that I worked on this mill. Now I'm going to try to get this over and get it back. This is a very heavy piece right here. But right underneath this here, guys, I'm going to lay this down. There is a reservoir underneath this. And this reservoir here needs to be full of oil. Now I have put some mineral oil in it just temporarily to get it, to get some in there. When I took this thing apart, that was bone dry. And when I put it back together before, I think all I did was put some Crisco oil in it. I didn't put any oil. I realized there's a reservoir here. And this thing is made to hold oil. So I put mineral oil in it because mineral oil is a food safe type oil. I don't know how I missed that before. I can put more oil in it through the top here because these holes here go straight down into the oil reservoir there. So that's not a big problem. And it can be done once the top of the mill is actually put on. But what I've got to do now is the mill used to feed from this side right here. Now it's going to have to feed from this side because of the way the PTO turns. I've taken all these bolts out. I took a taps and dies. I cleaned them all up where they turn really easy. That way I don't have any problem with that. The next step, I cleaned all the gears up. I wire brushed all the gears down. Got them in really good clean condition. I cleaned up the bearing cups both inside and outside. I cleaned them up. And they will be the next part of this mill that I put together. Now these bearing cups have a Babbitt bearing that's poured on this half side of it. And you'll see why in a minute they don't have them all the way around. Now this bearing cup here went with this roller here. This one went with this here because it was already kind of, I did that because they pre-wore. This cup used to be over here and this one used to be over here. So I kind of like swapped them because we're moving the rollers around. Now, you see these cups, they're a cup. They're made to have oil in them. So before when I put this thing together, if I remember correctly, I'd have to go back and look at my video. All I did was put some Crisco down in there. But now I realize, after cleaning them up, and it having all the dust in it, that literally it needs oil in it. And this is just plain mineral oil from Wally World, I guess. We've had it for quite some while in our stockpile. Now that we have that oil in there, the next issue is I cleaned the bottoms of the rollers up, got all the rust off of them, got them nice and shiny again, is to put this roller, this is the small roller. You have a large roller and you have a small roller. The small roller goes on the side of the mill that's feeding in, which is this one here. And these things are extremely heavy. I'm going to take this, and that oil may run over, but it's not going to hurt anything. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to sit it down in there. Now, got that on there.
This one I did the same thing. I cleaned it up. Now this is the heavy one. It rolled off of here. I can get it up. Comes this big boy right here. And this baby right here is no exception. It's heavy too.
Does it matter which way it's flipped?
Yes.
So how do you know which way it's flipped?
The bottom side of it has, I'll show you one of the smaller ones here. That was on there. Somebody put it on there years ago. I guess it's made to go there. That big gear has cleats underneath it like this right here. These cleats hang on the edges of these things right here. So that was, that's why I had to turn it that way. These will do the same exact thing.
One gear go on one side and one on the other, or no?
Yes, I gotta get the right gear and the right, get it locked in there.
So you know which one was which?
Yep.
In other words, don't mix up the gears.
These gears can be, these gears are the same here.
Those two little ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can get this turned where it'll fall down on there. There we go.
And nothing holds these in place exactly. They just sit there right now.
Right now they just sit there. That right there really is just the gist of the inside of this mill. Your small roller, like I said, which is this roller over here, is always your feed roller going in. You want your smaller roller going in, your bigger roller where it's coming out at. So we got that taken care of. Now comes the daunting task. Me and Ms. Wanda are going to have to sit that top back down on here. Well, let me tell you what, before we do, let me stand all the sides up around it and see if they'll all just stand there without falling down. Now this thing goes together in pieces, and I have to remember which way it goes.
It just slides down on that groove and supposed to sit there till you sit the top.
Supposed to just sit there till you sit the top on it, but now there ain't no guarantees. This one can be reversed. It can go one way or it can go the other way, and they made it that way because you can switch sides.
It used to be on this side.
It used to be on that side over there, but you see this is cut completely different here than this right here. And that's because it has to go up against that big roller, like to fit that roller like that. So I'm going to try to see if I can get this thing to get in here. I can get it back in here and get it to fit. This is always the challenge of getting this stuff to balance and to fit.
It looks better.
That looks a lot better right there. It's amazing the craftsmanship that went into all this stuff. How this is just old. This is just cast iron. It's just been casted, and yet it all fits. You know what I mean? And
without any bolts or anything.
yeah, there's nothing really here.
The problem's going to be getting that top on there.
And not knocking that down. Now I'm sure there was probably a piece that went in this over here, but it's never been on the mill since I've owned it. So I don't know. I don't know what it looks like, or if it is, or whatever.
Yeah, we're minus that one piece.
I'm minus that, but now comes the part of trying to get this top on here without knocking any of this down.
And I don't have the big camera, so y'all ain't gonna get to see that.
That's true. And that, all right, a little bit out of breath there. We got it. I'm hoping that it's all where it belongs.
Alright, it looks like this right here. Is that under there? It just needs adjusting.
It's just going to have some tweaking, I guess.
This right here looks like it might. It's not quite there.
Well, the mill got broke. A tree fell across it when the gin pole was on it during a tornado, and it broke all the top off of it here. And when it welded back, it kind of peeled this. You know how cast pulls. So this is not going to sit down exactly like it needs to. So, but the rest of it seems to be okay.
And that's where it calls it the number 2.
Yeah. All right, let me, now here is the barren half for the, this up here, the main shaft. Get out of my light here. This goes down in here, like that right there. These are the barren halves. I cleaned them up, got them nice and clean. They go into those.
It's not fit.
The bolts.
That one doesn't look like it's smooth. See, this one's smooth at the top.
Well, that's a bearing I poured. This one I haven't. This one's the reason I said we got to re-pour some of these bearings. We got to be re-poured.
Okay.
We will have to adjust these, because you can look at the distance right here and here. This is that new bearing I poured here last time, and we was going to have to pour this one. I haven't got to it yet. But this, I'm trying to get this where we can. Okay, it's just temporarily in there. This all comes later when we start adjusting the rollers. Now that we've got to this point, we've got to take our long bolts here. We have long bolts. They go through this. Oh, I left a part out. This goes on this side over here. I think this is made for one of these bolts to slide down past it right here. Okay, we got this. We got the scraper in here. It took a little bit more than what I thought. This bolt that goes down through here actually holds that scraper in place, and it'll only go one way. So I've got that.
Needed 2 hands and a light to find out.
2 hands and a light to get that thing figured out. So we got that one in there. Now the rest of them, we just basically just drop through.
Now these bolts are what holds all this in place once you tighten all that down.
The original bolts that was in this mill rusted almost completely in two. And I had to, I could not find bolts that was that long. So what I did was I took a piece of 5/8 all thread and had a friend weld a nut on one end of them, and I ain't pulling that back out. I was going to show you. It's just a piece of 5/8 all thread. I had a friend weld the nut on that end of it. I screwed it and had him weld it so I could make my own bolts for it, because I could not find any locally that was that size and that would work. I put lock nuts back on these because I didn't want them working loose while the cane mill was being used. All right, we have this piece right here that goes in. Now this has to go in right between the gears. There's 2 gears right in there. Let me get this turned. Right there. There's a hole right here that this thing has to go in. It just sits in there like that. Kind of helps hold everything in place, I suppose, and scrape stuff off the wheels. Okay, I'm checking everything. I got oil draining out right here. I'm going to try to leave them rags in there to catch it. Everything looks good. Got one little spot right here I want to clean up, but all the pieces seem like they're fitting like they're supposed to. So, next thing is going to be, and this is really the most crucial part of the whole deal, is adjusting the rollers. If the rollers are not adjusted right, you can break the whole mill. I mean, you can ruin the mill. And that is going to be the kicker here now. It's got the directions right over here on the side as to how to adjust this thing. And I adjusted it last time based on these directions. And I know it says the least distance to set the feed roll is 1/8 of an inch apart. So the feed roll is this roller right here. The least amount of space I can have is 1/8 of an inch. And it really depends on the size of the cane that you are running through this thing. So my cane is not what you call giant cane, but it's also not little bitty cane. So what I'm going to probably do is I'm going to probably go, and I'll start out with like, instead of an 1/8, I'm probably going to start out with like maybe a 1/4 inch to see how it works. Okay, right now we have a little bit more. This paint paddle is like 1/8 of an inch, and it slides in there real easy right now. And you want the bottom of your roller and the top of your roller to be the same. So that right there, the top feels tighter. Let me back this up, take a screwdriver right here and push that roller back. There we go. Now I got probably the same at the top as I do at the bottom. That way I know up here that's pushing that feed roll back against that bearing tight. The bottom, I don't want to get the bottom too tight. So far I'm still sliding good at the bottom. Alright, now that's your main roll going in. Now what I'll do, as we use it, I will critique these adjustments right here. If I go to stick my cane and it don't pull it in there, then I'll know that these rollers right here need to be tightened down just a little bit more than what they are. Because right now I've got them pretty tight. This is the one over here that's actually going to, let me get all this pushed back good and tight. Get that stuck in there. This is the one that's going to actually finish squeezing all the juice out. Now this one we can get to, and we don't want it to be like 1/8 of an inch at the most. So let me take my screwdriver and make sure that, push that roller apart. And see right there,
You got a lot of space.
I got a lot of space in this one. So let me see if I can. I'm going to have to take my wrench here, back off of these nuts. This is the one part of sugarcane mills you don't ever hear nobody talk about. Okay. That right there. I'm going to leave it at 1/8 of an inch there. Let me get my screwdriver. We get this top one now. Top one looks like it's about right. Bottom one, oh, it pushed the bottom one apart when I did that, so we need to tighten the bottom one up a little bit more. Okay, that one's there. That one's there. Now, I'm going to run this one up. It's got that one. Make sure we're there. Let's go ahead and tighten this nut up. And these can be readjusted as you're running your mill. Okay, that's how I set my mill. I use a paint paddle to set it, and I can, like I said, I can redo it as it's actually running. All right, these bearings, I didn't leave them completely dry. I didn't clean all the oil off of them. I'm gonna pour just a little bit of mineral oil around them, where I can. When you turn it one way or the other, these rollers pull away from that bearing, and allows me to get a little bit of oil in them. All right. Now, okay, this is the final part right here that I'm going to put on there. Now, I don't ever tighten these down tight, because I like to be able to have it where I can move them around to put a little, they got a little notch in them right here. And there's a little V thing there that prevents them from moving. Alright guys, this is the actual part that's going to go up here. It's going to be turning the cane wheel. So it's going to turn in this direction. So, oh man. Alright. Now I'm going to have to get my tractor. We're going to pick this thing up and we're going to take it outside. I'm going to have to take my PTO thing off my tractor and set it down on here and hook it up. And I'm going to sit and let it turn to see how it actually works here. And then we might even stick a piece of sugar cane through it. We got it out here where we can get it in the daylight where we can actually see it.
It jerked the fire out of it. That's going to be dangerous. I mean,
The clutch is slipping.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you're fixing the clutch a little bit.
Yeah.
It did what it's supposed to do as far as
exactly
slipping.
what it was supposed to do as far as slipping. That's exactly what I wanted. That's why I wouldn't tighten it down too tight to start with. I want to know the perfect, you know, to have it at. That's what I'm after, is to know that breaking point. Well, guys, we finally, that clutch has got to be like super tight for this thing to actually work. It did a really good job of mashing it out flat. I mean, it got all the juice out of it. I mean, boy, it got every bit of it. Did a good job. I can't complain about that. It mashed it really, really flat and good. So I'm gonna take it now around to the, throw this over. The cows may want this later today. I'm gonna take it over to the water hose and kind of wash it out good and clean, and bring it back and set it in the barn. I know it'll work. I'm just nervous because it's really, really fast. I'm not used to that, and then that bothers me. So I do want to slow it down drastically. Even though it's not turning that fast, it still bothers me, you know?
And the bees have done found the juice. Come on, Candy.
Come here, girl. Come on, here. Woo! Woo! Come on, here. Woo!
Any other time it come running.
Come on, here. Come on, Mr. Duke. Come on here, Hadassah. Come on, Hadassah. Come on, Hadassah. Come on here. Come on, Hadassah. Come on here. Come here, Mr. Duke. Come here, Mr. Duke. Come here, boy. Come on here. Come on, Hadassah. Come on here.
He said, I'm not sure if I like that or not. Ah, Hadassah's like, sweet. Now they figuring it out. They go, sugar.
Sweet treat.
Candy, candy. Sugar, sugar. You don't want one? She said, I don't know about that. She's like, I'm not sure about
Candy.
that. Come on. She's got to get her butt in the way. It's pretty good, ain't it? Shushan, you like that? She's chewing cane. Candy, you gonna chew cane? That's what you call candy cane, ain't it?
That's a candy cane there now.
That's a candy cane.
you know, it's one of the things, you do one thing and you find out there's something else that you don't know about. Well, using this tractor to run this completely defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to do, because this tractor has so many safety features on it that I can't lock this thing in and leave it turning and get off of the seat, which means somebody'd have to sit on the seat, and if somebody's got to sit on the seat, you might as well have somebody going around in circles, you know what I'm saying? So the old tractor here, you can get off of the seat with it and leave the post hole auger running, because I've done it many a time, drilling holes. I have to get off and, you know, work the post hole thing while it's sitting there spinning. This is the tractor we'll have to use when we operate this particular cane. I was hoping to be able to use this one, but that's not going to happen now. I hate safety stuff. I mean, I know it's got its purposes, but there ought to be something, and there may be. There is some buttons on there that I don't know about, and I'm probably going to get on there and see if I'm going to check it out, and I'm praying that there's a feature on there that I can turn something off so that I can get off and it be working back here. But nevertheless, the bees are starting to find it, so what we got to do is I got to take this thing over to the water hose, and I got to spray it and clean it out real good. What we found out was going on with the clutch here was once it started slipping enough, the clutch got hot, it locked in, and it started working. So that was what the whole issue was on that. Now that I know it's going to work, I'm going to go ahead and try to get my poles set in the ground. This will be mounted at 21 inches high. Right here will be 21 inches high, which will make where the cane feeds in at over here 28 inches high. When you sit in a comfortable seat, a seat is 16 inches high, but the difference between 16 and 28 will allow a person to sit in a seat and actually just feed the cane right into it. So the only issue I'm running into right now that really bothers me is the fact that it's feeding so fast, because it'll take a stalk of cane and shoot it through there, you know, which means where we used to run 2 and 3 stalks at a time through it, I'm only going to be able to run 1 stalk at a time, which is okay because it's going faster. But I'm all about safety on things like this.
Except for the tractor.
Well, I think there's probably a feature on that tractor somewhere that says I can turn that off back there where I can use it.
Duke's licking the fence.
Well, it probably sugar dripped on that fence where I had my hands on it from handling that sugar cane.
They like sugar cane.
But so the next big issue is just figuring out if I can do this with if there's a bunch of buttons on the dash in yonder. I don't know what half of them are. I'm gonna have to experiment and see if there's one of them that'll let me use this. And if it is, praise the Lord, I'll be able to use it. But if not, Old Faithful here is gonna be the one that's gonna run this cane mill. Time to get excited now, because I think now if I can just get everything else put together, the furnace, and get this mounted on poles, I believe we have it where we can use it. So
In cold weather.
in cold weather, not in warm weather, because the bees were already trying to find it a while ago. And that's why we don't do it when it's warm. We got to have like a day where it's in like the 20s outside. These animals back here are
They're fighting over the sugar cane.
Who's getting what, you know?
But look at our candy cane.
Our Candy, Miss Candy's eating her cane, so she heard me say her name. See them ears pulled forward? She knows her name, Candy. Yeah. Look at her.
She loves that cane.
Now this is some good stuff right here. Anyway, guys, let me get busy, get this cleaned up before the bees take me over, and see if I can't get busy putting those posts in the ground, and get my auger put back on my tractor here, and see if I can figure this thing out, and we'll show you the next video when we get ready to get the syrup building just a little bit further along. And we're still looking at names now for the syrup building, so don't forget that. Thank you guys from Pecan Grove.